The original Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Genesis was an immensely popular game that effectively launched Sega into the console wars and plastered Sonic as a video game icon, which he remains to this day despite a wide library of mixed to negative reception since his heyday. Asking the question of would there be a sequel to this game was like asking if bears shit in the woods, and so we would get Sonic 2 a year after its predecessor in 1992. On the surface, not much has changed. The game utilizes the same engine, and the formula hasn't changed at all. You traverse through a series of zones with acts separating them, although this time there are less acts per zone, usually 2, paving the way for more total zones, giving you more variety. All the favorites are still here. The ring boxes, extra life, shield, speed shoes, and invincibility are all there. Nothing new to report. And the plot is basically the same, as Dr. Robotnik has returned to steal the Chaos Emeralds using kidnapped animals converted into robots in an effort to power up his deadly spaceship, the Death Egg. So essentially, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The controls are just as tight, the soundtrack is awesome once again, and the levels continue to feature a variety of insane loop-de-loops and hidden passageways that make the game fun to explore, and send you on a roller coaster without nauseating you, unless you have vertigo issues or something. There are new features, however. It's not all the same. The most notable is the 2-player option, which introduces Sonic's sidekick, Miles Tails Prower, most notably known as just Tails. You can play a competitive split-screen battle which takes you through 3 of the game's zones and a race against the clock and point totals that cumulatively decide a winner for each segment, plus the new and improved special stage which takes place through a pseudo 3D half-pipe in a battle to collect more rings than your opponent, while avoiding the black bombs that knock the rings out of your possession. This mode is a lot more fun than the last game's special stage, and aside from the competitive multiplayer mode, it also appears in the main game as your means to collect the Chaos Emeralds like in the last game. This time, however, instead of hitting up the giant magic ring that appears at the end of each stage, you now access the special stage by entering the flashing stars that appear over the checkpoint posts when you have 50 rings. This gives you a lot more opportunities than the last game, as before you could only access 1 for each stage. Now there are multiple per stage. When you collect all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds, you have the ability to play as Supersonic. Once you collect 50 rings and jump into the air, you'll transform into the yellow superhuman version of Sonic, where you're basically invincible, although you can still die from falling into pits and getting crushed, and you're also faster and can jump higher. During this process, your ring count will steadily decrease, and you'll want to collect rings to keep the count up, as once you run out of rings, you'll transform back into normal Sonic. Keep in mind this won't work if you're playing as Tails. The one thing that sucks about the special stage, though, is that once you're done with the stage, regardless of whether or not you've earned an emerald, you return to the stage with 0 rings. That's a real drag, especially if you're at the checkpoint right before a Robotnik battle, as you're right at the end and there's a lot of times no rings to gear you up for the fight. You should at least get them back if you won the special stage. And by the way it works is you're given a goal of X amount of rings to grab in the special stage. At any rate, while the split screen is pretty fun, it's also pretty smushed. They didn't quite get the aspect ratio right, but it shouldn't ruin it for you. Another way you can play 2 players is in the main game, as Tails normally follows you around and sometimes helps by smashing enemies. The second player can assume control of Tails anytime he or she wants, although you have to keep up or you'll get left in the dust and have to wait for Tails to fly back onto the screen. It's pretty hard to keep him on screen. This is still much better than something like Mickey Mousecapade, though, where your sidekick can be way more of a detriment than a contribution. You also have the option to play as Sonic alone without the assistance of Tails, or you can play as Tails alone, but you can't play as Tails with the assistance of Sonic. I guess Sonic is just too good for that shit. The other addition is the dash move, where Sonic or Tails can curl up into a spinning ball and dash across the floor to get yourself up hills and other such shit, especially if you don't have a running start. Comes in handy quite a bit and can even be used to smack enemies out of the way. One negative, though, is the lack of a save feature or password system. You still have to go through the game in one sitting, and it's pretty long, so the only other way to get through this is to utilize the level skip cheat. Otherwise, Sonic 2 matches, if not surpasses, its predecessor. It's really a close call. First zone is Emerald Hill, basically Green Hill Zone 2.0. Grab the shield toward the beginning of Act 1, and when you reach this fork in the road, take the top route, as there are more rings, some speed shoes if you like, and you can spring up here for a checkpoint and then hop onto this platform for invincibility before you head through all the loop-de-loops, which, after getting a running start but being sure not to run too fast and smack the spring backwards, will lead you to a hidden passageway for an extra life. After a couple more loops, you reach the end of the act. There are some speed shoes at the beginning of Act 2, and when you get to the fork here, take the top route, as you can get everything you need from the bottom half too when you take the top. Dive through this hidden passageway for a ring box, then fall back and spring your way back up. It'll lead you to a spring you can use to grab some more rings, and a hidden checkpoint is up here. Normally this wouldn't be a big deal, because once you slip back down there's another checkpoint, but remember that these offer the special stages if you have 50 rings, so you want to hit as many of these as you can, providing you have an adequate amount of rings. When you take this route, you can get some invincibility by taking this overhead path here after the next checkpoint, before hitting up the first Robotnik battle. This is extremely simple. It's even easier than the first Robotnik of Sonic 1. All he does is charge slowly from one side to the other. As long as you don't make contact with the drill up front, you're good. Just keep smashing him in the middle. The only thing you have to look out for in any way, shape, or form is the drill that'll eventually fire out in between passes if he's on his last legs. So as long as you're somewhat centered on the screen, you'll see it coming. Smash him until he's all done, and you'll free your first batch of animals. Chemical Plant Zone is filled from tide to sand with so many loop-de-loops and zany tube rides that it'll make your head spin, literally if you get nauseous easily. Watch out for these damn spiders that hang from the ceiling and try to grab you, but you won't lose rings until they pull you up, so having tails nearby helps. Grab the ring monitor off the bat and take the lower path, springing your way backwards. Roll through these spikes or jump on them when they're not firing their projectiles in the air. You don't want to collide with that shit while you're trying to jump on them. Grab the next ring box and unlock the tube to take a ride through. There are several of these throughout the zone. Grab the shield and use these rolling wheels to spring your way through the loops. Then use the next one to spring your way back up for a ring box and a checkpoint. Spin back to where you were, and when you get to the part here where the floors fall apart, slip down and grab the ring box, shield, and checkpoint. Follow the linear path and you'll hit the sign ending the act. Act 2 is more difficult, thanks mainly to the water aspect. Remember the labyrinth zone from the last time where you had to suck in air bubbles to keep from drowning? Well, now there are no air bubbles, at least not in this stage, and the chemically poisoned water is purple this time, so I don't know how healthy it would be for Sonic to be ingesting these bubbles anyway. So run down the long pathway, head up these moving platforms, and step on this platform to trigger its movement, allowing you to slip down for a ring box and some invincibility. Then quickly spring your way out and walk off screen a bit to respawn the staircase so you can make your way up. Spring right, watch the spiders, and grab the ring boxes and shield. Then ride the platforms back up, take the tube ride, and eventually you'll come to another tube ride. Spring your way up here for a ring box when you exit, spring forward, and hit up another checkpoint. Soon after you'll come to a spot where you have to jump on gliding platforms or you'll fall into the purple stuff. You can spring your way out if you do fall in, but there are spikes down here, so be careful with your jumps. Then spring your way forward and you'll reach this narrow space with moving staircases as the water rises. Stay on the right side and leap up onto the next one as it passes by. Don't fall down the gaps when the staircases are vertical, because it's just an open pit at the bottom and you're dead. When you get to the top, you'll hit another pair of gliding platforms. If you fall, you'll have to start all over again up the underwater staircases, so don't do that. Soon after is the checkpoint leading to Robotnik, but there's another gliding platform along the way. Don't fall down it. When you get to Robotnik, stand in the dead center of the screen as the floor on either side continuously collapses and rebuilds. Smash him when he's filling up his jar of acid or whatever the hell that blue substance is, and make sure you don't land outside the center of the floor so you don't drop. Avoid his dumpage of the chemical and the debris that ricochets off the ground, and repeat the process until he's done for. Keep in mind that the floors continue to collapse and rebuild after you defeat him, so jump over that shit on your way to freeing up the animals. Aquatic Ruin Zone is another water zone, and incidentally the last. This one does have air bubbles though, but you don't necessarily have to go underwater, as there's an overhead route. When you pass these skull plates on the trees, it'll fire a dart, so get ready to dodge or duck underneath them. Grab the ring box here and take the overland route. Remember to head for higher ground when in doubt. When you spring forward, don't stand on these platforms for too long, as they'll drop you into the drink. And don't run too fast, because these grounders will stop you dead in your tracks. If you do fall underwater, just keep moving forward. It's a pretty linear path. Smash the fish and grounders along the way. Watch out for the falling pieces of broken pillar. Wait for them to drop in front of you. And it's generally a good idea to stop at every air bubble and wait for the bubble before pursuing. It's a little tedious, but it could save your life. There's an extra life hidden in this log. Roll through it, and before long you're at the end. At the beginning of Act 2, there are these swinging platforms. Ride them across. Bypass the spring and hit the checkpoint. Ride across another swinging platform and stop yourself halfway through each of the next 2 loops to keep yourself from approaching the water section. After a few pillars is another checkpoint. Then slip down here, then spring your way back up to land, and shortly after is Robotnik. If you fall underwater, repeat the same strategy as the last act. Robotnik is a lot easier here than he is in Chemical Plant. All you have to do is stand in the opposite side of him. Wait for him to smash one of the totem poles with his hammer, which will fire a dart from one side to the other. Avoid it and use its temporary platform status as a means to jump up and smash him, then slip back down, rinse, wash, and repeat. You can also try to bounce yourself onto the statue to get a few more hits in. Once he's done, free up the animals and it's on to Casino Night Zone. This zone is Sonic 2's version of the Spring Yard Zone from Sonic 1, the flashy, Vegas-y bumper bouncing pinball-like stage. Only this time there are flippers to make it more like a pinball machine, not to mention slot machine games to magnify the Vegas backdrop. These games can award you with rings depending on what combination the tiles turn up, but you can also lose rings if the Robotnik icons come into play. Although even with 0 rings you can't die. This gambling aspect is kind of addicting. You can continuously play out these games as many times as you want and farm out extra lives. Just make sure you don't exceed the 10-minute time limit. This zone also was the model for Sonic Spinball, the spin-off game that was released a year after Sonic 2 as a means to hold players over until Sonic 3 came out the following year. Anyway, at the beginning there are some speed shoes, and down below is the first slot machine right off the bat. Although this one has a lot of bumpers and shit that get in your way, so I never really bother with it. There are others. Wait for these big blocks to drop before passing you so you don't get crushed. Then spring your way up a couple of springs and slip down here for another pair of speed shoes. Take the elevator down and use the spring to catapult yourself through. When you get here, slip down this way and try to spring your way upward to the checkpoint. Move on and spring your way up here for a slot machine game. Flip your way to the right, grab the invincibility, and soon after is the sign to end the act. Use the spring at the beginning of Act 2 to get up here for a ring box and some speed shoes. Continue heading right and you'll find the easiest slot game to access in the zone, as there's no drop at the bottom to force you out of the game. You continuously keep coming back to it as much as you so damn please. Spring your way back up and, oh, I forgot to tell you about the only freaking enemy in this zone. This shielded prick moves extremely slowly, but you can't smash him unless you spin attack him from behind. Since he's hardly a threat otherwise, just ignore him. Slip down this way, grab the speed shoes, and fly through. There's another easily accessible slot game here, and a checkpoint right after. Spring your way onward, and you'll find another slot game. After you've had your fill with that, or if you drop down the chute, you'll end up in this spot that's a little bit of a pain in the ass to maneuver through because you'll get bumped backward. Try to land on the left side of the bumper and gently guide yourself over. After that is another slot game, followed by the checkpoint to Robotnik. He'll hover around and drop spiked balls that'll shatter, with pieces of debris that can hurt you, so keep yourself away from them until it clears up. You'll naturally want to use the flippers to attack him, but his electric charge underneath the ship, along with his occasional clampdown attempts, can easily get in your way. So the best thing to do is to roll yourself up the walls and propel yourself off them into the side or on top of him. Then quickly get back down and away from his general direction so you don't get hit with the spiked balls. Repeat the process until he's done, and the animals are waiting to be freed. Hilltop Zone is next. Start out by riding the lift down. Don't fall off carelessly, it's a bottomless pit, even though Sonic dies from contact with the bottomlessness every time. The redheads have a drill atop them. Kill them by rolling into them head on, or jumping beside them to trigger their launch of the drill overhead, freeing up the ability to smash them. Using these seesaws can spring you up by using the red bastard as a catapult. Just don't make contact with him. Launch yourself to the left on the first one to get a hiding invincibility up here. and then spring launch yourself over here for a ring box, and then through the hidden passageway in the wall to get some more rings and another invincibility when you exit. Use the seesaw to launch up here where you'll meet another variation of these red balls. This one slowly sends fireballs at you, but these also act as his shield, leaving him vulnerable once he empties out completely. Ride the moving platforms up here to a checkpoint, and then spring yourself here to a ring box and ride the lift down. Spin dash your way through the loop and crash through the ground. Use the seesaws to maneuver past the lava and ride the lifts down. There's a hidden spring underground here against the wall. Use it to get up here and get an invincibility. Take it and move as fast as you can back and through the tunnel so the uprising lava won't affect you, and the end is just ahead. At the beginning of Act 2, take the overhead route here and spring your way up this way for an early checkpoint. As you make your way downward, slip into this hidden passage in the wall for an extra life. Then spring your way up here and ride the lift down till you can slip down for a ring box. Grab the shield here, hit the checkpoint, and get ready to move your ass, cause the lava in this room steadily rises. Take the platforms up and head right for a hidden invincibility behind this wall. It'll be good to have in case you fall while taking the rest of these platforms up to the top. Exit out the upper right hand portion of the room, ride the lifts down, and soon after is Robotnik. He rises from the lava in some flame retardant contraption. He has 2 attacks. First, he'll fire a flame shot from his gun. Smash him when he's on his way up. And quickly come back to the middle and position yourself on the platform away from his side, cause on his way down, he'll send a fireball that lights up the entire platform. You also don't want to sit on the platforms on the far sides of the screen cause the flame goes both ways and there's no escape. Repeat the process until he's done, and free up the animals on your way to the Mystic Cave Zone. Right at the beginning is a fork. Take the top route and head up these little bridges for a checkpoint and a ring box. Just remember that these bridges collapse upon contact, so jump fast. Then slip down here and back a little for a shield, and just ahead of that is another checkpoint. These fireflies will shine. Don't touch them then, they'll hurt you. They fly slowly, so either ignore them completely, or if you're constricted, just wait for their flash to fizzle out and kill them. A series of platforms with spikes on the side will shift out of the wall. They're safe to walk on top of, so stand back and let them come at you as you ascend. Grab the vine to open up the bridge here, and there'll be an invincibility shortly thereafter. Hit up another checkpoint right after that, and then there's another invincibility here. So there's a good chunk where you can run through fearlessly. Use the vine here to lower the bridge, and then another one right here to make your way up this way. Grab the ring boxes in this little drop, and the sign ending the act is just ahead. Slip down past these moving platforms, open up the bridge, and stay on the low path, grabbing an invincibility in the process. Continue down this pathway, grab another invincibility, and be careful slipping between the crates. You don't want to get sandwiched. Watch the collapsing bridge and head through here. Move slowly through here so you don't fall down here into the spikes. There's no way out. Grab the vine to lower the bridge so you can pass, and down here under these collapsing bridges is an extra life. Just stay on the right side to avoid the spikes. Grab the shield, take the low path, and Robotnik is just ahead. His spiked contraption tears to and fro the ceiling. When he travels vertically, that's where his spikes will be facing, so don't even try to leap onto him in this state, although you can catch him from underneath. Still, you don't want to smash him more than twice when the spikes are horizontal. You'll run the risk of not getting out in time. When he's up in the ceiling, the debris will drop down on you. The rocks won't hurt you, but the daggers will, so stay low. Don't bother jumping so you have more time to react. The ceiling is low enough as it is. Smash him once when he's moving sideways, and then try to catch him from underneath when he's on his way up, at least until the debris starts coming down. Repeat the process until he's done for, and it's on to the next zone, Oil Ocean. The bridges collapse, a la Mystic Cave Zone, so jump right after you cross these or you'll fall into the ocean of oil, which isn't like the water of previous stages. Here it's basically quicksand you'll have to jump your way out of, no big deal. These octopi just float around and spit projectiles at you. Simply jump over their attacks and smash them. Ride this propelled platform up here for a ring infusion, and grab the shield here before taking the next one up. Take the elevators up, and you'll come to a slide of oil to a checkpoint. Then continue onward, riding these propelled platforms, and follow the path until you get to this thing you have to smash open to get these hot air balls to fire you all about. Grab the shield when you pop out and run up the oil slide to get a ring box and an extra life here. Then hop into the nearby hot air ball, which will lead you to another hot air ball ride. Take the elevator down and run hard against the propeller that blows you back until it shuts down, and the sign to end the act is right after. At the beginning of Act 2, scale across these propelling platforms and push against the side of the spring to send yourself forward. Just jump off the wall, otherwise you'll smack the ceiling. Be careful of these slow-moving spike things. Ride the oil slide down and use the red spring to bounce yourself up here for some ring boxes, and a checkpoint is just after. Ride the swinging platform and then ride the first propelled platform up here for a ring box. After taking all these platforms up, you'll hit an invincibility. Ride the oil slide down and let yourself go as far as you can so you can sneak up here for a few ring boxes and another invincibility. After riding some more hot air balls, you'll reach Robotnik. Just remember to grab the checkpoint that's somewhat hidden over here on the side following the ride down the oil slide. Robotnik hides under the oil in his contraption, similar to Hilltop Zone from earlier. There are 3 phases here that work in a rotation. First he'll rise up and do nothing, this is when you hit him. Then he'll send a robotic snake with a blade on the head in an arc pattern, simply dodge the head. Then another snaky type thing rises up firing lasers. It'll fire 3 or 4 shots and always face your direction. So stand against the edge of the screen to give yourself more reaction time and be wary whenever it's level with you. Keep smashing him once that part of the rotation comes up and repeat the process until his contraption is destroyed and you've freed up another batch of animals. Metropolis Zone is the only zone in the game with the classic 3 acts, so get ready for a lot of this. Use the hydraulic spring to send you up here for a ring box. Just watch out for these stars that self-destruct and send spikes out from each of its points. They can be a pain in the ass throughout the stage. Then grab the shield and hit the switch to pull the platform out. These crabs will fire off a retractable claw. Jump over it and smash its head. Watch out for these pumps, they'll crush you, so wait for the opening before running through. Bypass this switch and spring your way up here, and watch out for this praying mantis's blade attack. Jump over it and squash him or run. These arrows will spike out in a clockwise rotation, so keep that in mind when timing your jumps across, and a checkpoint is right after. Slip down here for a shield, and when you get here, you'll have to run to spin the nut upwards. Just watch out for these damn stars. And shortly after that is the sign. In Act 2, hit the switch to get the platform out and ride the pulleys, leaping onto the platforms when they rise out of the lava. Take this little warp thing into the spring corridor upwards, grab the shield, and when riding this nut up, jump into this hidden space in the wall, leading you to a few ring boxes and spring your way up for a checkpoint. Ride the nuts up, spring your way up here, and avoid the star shots. Take the gear to the moving platform, making sure not to fall in the lava as you spring your way up to another checkpoint. After killing these mantises, slip down here, making sure you hug the left wall for an extra life before springing your way back up to the pulleys. Scale the arrow platforms and flip your way up here, smacking the switch to get the platform out. Spring your way up, grab the shield, and after another pulley ride, you'll hit the sign. At the beginning of Act 3, scale these platforms on the gears. If you fall down, just spring your way back up. Then slip past these gears for an invincibility before springing your way back up and moving on. Ride the nut, and stop if you must to avoid the damn stars that'll shoot spikes into your ass. Leap up onto this moving platform. Just make sure you don't do it too late or you'll hit the spikes on the rotation. Spring your way up to a checkpoint, and then spring your way up to the spinning cage. Slip down here and grab the ring box and shield, both protected by the mantises. After killing more mantises, ride this platform across the way, ride the nut up, and of course there's a bunch of stars along the way to complicate things. And after another platform ride, you'll meet Robotnik. These orbs will float around him, almost acting as a shield. It's very hard to make contact with him in this state. He'll hover by the floor and make his way towards you. Get a good jump to clear him and the orbs, and stand in the corner as he sends the orbs into a wider range. As long as you're against the edge, you're safe. Once the orbs start to float in a horizontal pattern, get under him and smash him, and one of the orbs will become a mini Robotnik. Smash that too right away. As you keep getting more hits, you'll reduce the amount of orbs. Once you take out the last orb, it'll stop firing a laser at you. Stay low to avoid the attacks, get under him, and give him one last smash to finish him off and free some more innocent animals. The Sky Chase Zone is the most unique of all in the game, as you'll stand atop the wing of a plane piloted by Tails the entire time, or by Sonic if you're playing as Tails. You don't have to worry about falling off, as Tails will be there to catch you no matter where you jump. The enemies are albatrosses that sail across the sky, these bulbous cocksuckers that drop spiked balls downward. Try not to ever get under them. And little turtles that sit on a larger stationary turtle that spits projectiles at you. Smashing the little guys will render the big guys as nothing really more than a platform. There's really not much else to say here besides kill the enemies and grab the rings, as nothing else ever comes into play. There's no boss, no checkpoints, and no items to grab other than the rings. About halfway through, you'll see the Wing Fortress airship fly by you in the background. And since this is also a one-act zone, once you reach the end, you'll make your way to the Wing Fortress zone, another one with only one act. Lasers from the ship will shoot your plane down, so jump aboard right after it gets hit so you don't fall to your death. Grab the rings along the way and smash in this chicken that pops out and fires a gun at you. Simply smash him. They're the only robotic enemies of the stage, but there are plenty of hazards. Hop up here, grab the shield, and jump up into this propeller to send you upward for a shortcut. Head left and scale your way up here via the slow moving propellers, and there are speed shoes back here, but this stage does encourage you to traverse more carefully, so you may want to forgo this option. Pass through the checkpoint and grab the invincibility along with the ring boxes. Just avoid the gunfire. Right up this conveyor and you'll then find another invincibility and a shield against the wall. Move through this hidden doorway and you'll come flying out and grab a hold of these panels. Hitting the jump button will trigger you to let go and sail across, grabbing the next one. You can just go straight across and safely land on the next section, but you can slip downward a bit to grab some more rings after the second set. Follow the conveyors down and hop across these guns that poke out of the ship. They're only out temporarily, so move quickly. After smacking the checkpoint, get on this thing that launches you across the way. Use the crane to pull your way up these platforms, grab the ring box here, head through the hidden doorway and slip down here for another ring box, and the hidden doorway here leads you to Robotnik. This boss is different because you don't physically fight Robotnik. He stands on the opposite side of a beam protecting himself as he unleashes his weapon. A series of 3 small platforms with spikes at the bottom will float about the room, and a laser, which is protected by a cover for the most part, will shift around the ceiling. The cover will open up, and that's when you want to smash it right away, because a laser beam will fire down soon after. You'll need to use the floating platforms to reach the laser, but this is complicated by the spikes underneath each of them. You have to carefully plan your jumps so you don't smack one from underneath. And then once you do get the hit, or even if you miss, once the laser is out, you're now stuck in a boxed off area until the laser retracts, so you have less room to work with. This is difficult, so you damn sure have better brought those rings just before the boss. Once you take it out, Robotnik takes off, and once the protective beam finally fades away, you'll have reached the edge just a little bit too late. But Tails returns with the plane, with a newly installed rocket booster, and gives chase to Robotnik's ship. Once close enough, Sonic grabs a hold until the ship leaves the whole fucking Earth and parks into the Death Egg. The Death Egg Zone is another one-act zone, essentially making the trilogy of these last 3, which seamlessly flow right into each other, a zone in and of itself. However, this zone isn't even really a stage, just a pair of bosses. The first is the Metal Sonic Bot. His spikes act as a power saw, and he'll roll himself up a la Sonic and charge at you. Jump over him, and when he stands there showboating his saw, smash him. But make sure you land on his forehead area, because the spikes are harmful, and since there's no rings in this stage, it's an automatic death. After a spiked rolling charge, he'll glide across the floor head on. Here you can manage to land some hits. In fact, if you time it right, you can just stand in place and bump him with a straight shot as he passes. After this, he'll do another rolling attack, but this time he jumps on the way. So stand in the spot he'll be jumping over so he clears you. From here, he continues to rotate the pattern. Keep smashing him until he's destroyed, and if you'll notice, Robotnik, who was watching from the background the whole time, will now run away. And for a fat fuck, he's pretty fast considering Sonic is unable to catch up to him before he hops aboard his giant Robotnik machine. It'll walk slowly. Your target is its chest. Jump up and smash him there, but beware his hands as they're spike laden. So land your attack when he has them pulled back and try to aim high so you have room to bounce back without taking a hit. And remember, one hit means it's all over and you'll have to fight Robosonic again. He'll then launch into the air and a crosshair will target you. As the intervals between the beeping decreases, you'll know that he's about to come back down. So run away at this point when he locks on. If he lands facing you, he'll launch a pair of attacks with his arms. Jump straight up over both of these and wait for him to launch back up for another attack. If he lands facing away from you, he'll send 2 mini Robotnik devices that explode. But they have a very small range of explosion, so as long as you're not right up in their grills, you won't be in any danger. Every other launch, he'll go back to his regular walk, which is when you'll want to attack him. After enough shots, the machine is destroyed, and somehow this triggers the self-destruct mechanism and Sonic makes a run for it as the Death Egg blows sky high. You'll then get a slideshow of still shots depicting Tails and the newly freed animals looking on as the Death Egg blows up. Surely the entire fucking world just saw this if it made this much of a visual impact. Anyway, they seem very appropriately nervous at the possibility of their buddy being blown to pieces, so Tails hops in the plane and takes off in an attempt to rescue Sonic, who is now falling to the earth. Tails catches him just in time as the awesome end theme reaches its crescendo, and the birds fly nearby to enhance the dramatic effect. If you're Supersonic, he'll fly here, basically telling Tails that he didn't need the plane in the first place. And if you're Tails, you won't get the slideshow. You'll just see Tails falling for an extended period of time. Sonic then leaps off the plane in a triumphant pose as Tails seems scared shitless in the background, and the credits roll. The next game in the series would be the previously mentioned Sonic Spinball in late '93, and then the proper follow-up Sonic 3 would surface only a few months later in early '94, but we'll get to those another time. And that wraps up this edition of Aqualung's Game Reviews. See you next time.